There is one thing stronger than all the armies in the world put together, and that is an idea whose time has come. Idea perhaps is the most dangerous and most powerful of all the weapons. Hello and a very warm welcome viewers. You're watching the special presentation of Sansad TV on the journey of startups in India. India has the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, and if you're an aspiring entrepreneur or even otherwise, this is your destination as we script the novel success stories of unicorns, mid and small level startups, analyze the roadblocks and give wings to your dreams of becoming a job giver and not being a job seeker. So today, let's hear the story of water tech startup Vassar Labs. Water is vital, and especially in an economy that is dependent on agriculture. Agriculture accounts for 1/6 of our GDP, and close to 60% of Indian farms depend on rains to irrigate their farms. However, left to the mercy of the weather, a bad monsoon can mean a death knell for many farmers. Hyderabad-based startup Vassar Labs is taking small steps to solve this crisis. The startup, which was founded in September 2014, offers technology-based solutions in crucial sectors such as agriculture, water management, education, smart city planning, using new-age technologies such as machine learning and Internet of Things.
The last 5 years, we worked in a number of states, and now we have proven multiple case studies and success stories across multiple states where our solutions are actually impacting and helping sustainable agriculture and better management of water through all this process.
The day-to-day decisions on how should the water transfer be done, where are the areas where deficits would happen, water stress would happen, drought would come, or which are the areas where water would be in surplus, maybe in flood, were not also available in real time.
Over the years, in the agricultural sector, the startup has delivered essential solutions to farmers such as the right crop to sow, right amount of fertilizer, right time to sow, crop area estimation, weather-based drought alerts, soil moisture, and also stress prediction. Amit, welcome to Sansad TV and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, KRITI.
You came all the way from Hyderabad to join us. Thank you so much for it. So let's begin talking about your journey. So this startup is the first startup in the country to implement artificial intelligence in water management. Tell me about the journey.
So it's interesting. So you see water all across. If you travel from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, you will cross a lot of rivers. You will see a lot of water bodies, ponds, reservoirs, hydropower dams, and number of things you will cross. But the moment you wanted to understand how these things are actually managed and how these things are actually getting more and more productive, you will understand that there is a gap for technology. Let's see how technology is transforming everything. Say, for example, our electoral reform, which has been done because of the Election Commission implementation of unique ID system. Then the Aadhaar card, which has transformed the entire banking system. So IT innovations are the key to make any system more productive or take them to the next level, basically, I will say. Similar thing in water resources. So challenge is water resources. There are more than 10 to 15 departments who are working on water resources, starting from distribution channels to the river basin organizations, to the municipal operators, to the water supply operators. So there are n number of people involved in this complete day-to-day operations of water. And it becomes very complex for them to manage it, especially when they are working in isolation. So now you can see in such a complex network, the problems are inbuilt. You can identify that there are challenges when people are trying to understand the data. They are trying to understand the operational insight. They are trying to get intelligence. Just for a nominal understanding, I can ask you like how much water you have in your home. And you have to think it before answering, right?
Absolutely.
Now think about if you have to answer, a state administrator has to answer how much water there is in the state. So how much time they will take. So the chain of getting data will start from there. So no wonder how many times the interventions are delayed. They are not delayed because the government or the machineries don't want it to do that on time. The problem is getting data, understanding the field situation from the hydrological perspective is difficult. It takes time and the decision often gets delayed because of that. And the decision can be anything. Think about your flood planning, think about when actually flood is happening, how the reservoir should be operated, think about planning of watershed, which we are doing from last 50 years, and billions of dollars has already went into watershed planning in India. So all these things needs brain now, and that comes from the robust IT system. Now we have the technical capability. It's not like we don't understand these things. The science of perfect planning is already there, but the computing power was not there. The AI was not there. And even when it was there, it was out of reach because of the cost. Now with the new advancement in technology, being it's in IoT domain, so we have now cheaper sensors, being in the satellite domain, we have weekly free satellite data available, being in the crowdsourcing, everybody has a smartphone and they can send the data which is geotagged. So that works like IoT sensor in your hand. So with these advancement, we can bring every data piece together in real time and can assess all those things which were previously thought impossible. And this will help us to conclude how water should be managed. And that's what our platform is doing. So to do that, Vassar Lab has developed a platform called Aquawise. It brings all the data, then it deploys artificial intelligence on top of that, then it gives you the understanding of water resources in a localized format. You can look it on the geoportal view like a Google Maps, and you can have hundreds of layers to navigate from. And then it gives you a decision support system ultimately how it has to happen. Whether you want to do a distribution planning, whether you want to do a drinking water supply network planning, whether you want to do a reservoir planning, a flood mitigation, a hydropower maximization, all of these things are enabled with the smart technologies. And that's what we are doing. And we found that this is very interesting. When we started our project, the first project in Andhra Pradesh, we found that there are fields which are not irrigated. There are people who are not taking bath because there is no water in the home. So they have to take bath alternate day. So all these problems can be resolved if we can understand how the water has to be managed in near real time. So basically you have to understand two things. How your freshwater resources are acting in real time. Say for example where they are depleting and you need to make it up. And on the other side, whether the surface water sources are actually acting in a space and time. So which reservoirs have more reliability, which water bodies have more reliability, from which sources to which particular habitat needs to be supplied water so that they can get 24/7 water supply, which is ultimately the aim of Jal Jeevan Mission launched by central government. So all these things, when we saw it, when we implemented our technology, we have seen very encouraging response. And when we implemented, even our Honorable Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat sir in the Parliament has vetted it, that the kind of system Andhra Pradesh has deployed, if the same thing can be deployed across the India, the problem will be solved. So initially when we thought about to develop such kind of solution, it was very difficult. You have sleepless night because you can't figure it out what the hell you are dealing with. And it's always some new problem because you are working with a technology when you are not a subject matter expert. So we understood that we have to work in the water domain, but we didn't have the subject matter expertise.
All right, so it happened after 2 years of mess. And of course, this is the result of cohesive teamwork. We also spoke to your team members. Let's listen to them.
During the work process, I have found that there are three major challenges where department is facing. Trust deficit in technological interventions, primarily on the field side, and lack of data readiness in digital consumption, delay in the relay of information to the right people at right time.
So water management in itself is a very, very complicated task. And then integrating IT into it, again, a very, very complicated task. How did you think of this business model?
That's an interesting question. And we are still hammering ourselves with that question, like what would be our business model? So we have to understand before going into business model, how this domain itself acts in reality. So water is a matter of a state right now in our country, and water resources are managed by the state government. And there are some authorities, river basin organizations, who are managing the rivers who are basically crossing many states. Like you think about the Narmada, which crosses on 5 states. So that's how it's managed. So basin authorities are federal. Then you have state agencies who are managing the state level water bodies. And then we have municipal level authorities. Okay. So these all authorities work together to ensure that we have the water supply available for irrigation, for drinking water, for industries, for all various use cases. So here the problem is who wanted to own the solution, right? So primarily if you are working with government wanted to have the solution with them. So the primary business model which we have right now in application, that we deploy the solution for state governments, either on the state government data centers or either on the choice of cloud provider. So we deploy the solution for them, and then we provide operation and maintenance support. That's the traditional business model. But on the other hand, we are also developing a business model where state don't have to bear the cost of infrastructure, because there is a huge cost of infrastructure on that, being it's a cloud hosting, being it's on data side. So what we are bringing for them in a new business model, that we are doing a complete SaaS offering, software as a service offering for them. So they don't have to bear about the cost of infrastructure. They can simply plug and play the solutions. They can plug in their data sources. They can have their modules, and they can be just paying for what they are using. So that's one thing which we are bringing to them. Our software team is working hard on that to do the complete thing in such a manner. But that will take its own time, because there is a maturity which industry also needs to take. There is a maturity from product side that also needs to travel. And other than that, we also have to understand that water is a very hyper-local in nature. Yes. So there are a lot of characteristics which are defined at a very hyper-local level. So all these things combined, business model will keep evolving, and probably that will give us more evolution and edge ahead of our competition when we crack it earlier in the life cycle.
All right, so as you were telling us that this started in 2014, then 2 years of mess, and thereafter 2 years of probably finding the market, convincing the government. How did market validation come through?
So basically, if we see from our gut feeling, if we see our instinct, we see there is a huge market out there, because you see water everywhere. We know that we ourselves are made 70% of water, and the entire world is made of that. So we see water everywhere. So water management should be the product which everybody should want it to, and everybody should have interest in that. We found that's true. The only problem which we found is there is the technical adoption is different at different level of water management processes. Some processes where water gives revenue, like hydropower. Some processes like water supply, urban water supply, where we have water bidding system. And there are some processes where water is completely managed at a very large scale, like river basin organization, right? So there are different way it works. So when we were trying to reach state governments, when we made the first success of our AP WARIMS, which we call Andhra Pradesh Water Resource Management System, then we seen a momentum. Either we were invited from Niti Aayog for a workshop, we have did it, and we have seen response from various state officials when they have said like, yes, this is something they wanted to replicate. And with that in our mind, we thought like, yes, there is a good market in the India. And then we also tried reaching out the states, and we have seen it's a very common demand across the state governments, because they wanted to manage their resources better. The problem is uniform across the globe, I will say. The problem is urbanization. Everywhere you see more and more rapid population growth, and the higher economy. So if you see the other side of higher economy, what it happens, when you earn more, your food habits change. Yes. You demand the food which are more water intensive, either dairy or meat, any of these things. Even your choice of food grains also evolve according to that. So it means the more growing economy demands for more food which are high intensive on water. So obviously this brings down to one problem, that now everybody has to manage their water. The other aspect of it, if you see, the drinking water requirement is only 7 or 8% of the total water supply, fresh water available. The rest, everything goes into agriculture industry. Industry I will not count, because that's again a single digit number, or you can say hardly 10 to 12% of that. But the agriculture is something which consumes around 80% of water, more than that, somewhere 90%. So if you see this 80% of water, if you save 2% there, just assume, I'm just seeing a fictional number right now here. If you can save 2% water there, you don't have to save anything here. You can take your shower without thinking that we are running out of water. So there is a huge potential, and these potentials can be exploited with the better understanding of water ecosystem, I will tell. Water ecosystem which contains your river, your hydrological cycle, your water bodies, your groundwater. When this all works in cohesion, we can achieve such kind of targets very easily. Because India, if you see as a geography, we don't have a water crisis. The water crisis exists on a time and a space. And the major problem is too much or too less. Somewhere it's too much water, flood. Somewhere it's no water. They don't have understanding of how drinking water will be managed. So if the bridge between demand and supply can be bridged properly, the problem can be solved. And that's where we fit in. And that is the first market validation which goes as per our instinct. When we see the Government of India reports, when they say that they wanted to do that, they wanted to bridge this gap. The examples, Jal Jeevan Mission, more crop per drop, these are significant steps taken by federal government, and that gives us market validation. So during the process, when we are developing the AP volumes, the challenge was to convince the authorities and convince the government officials that how this will be, helping you out in your day-to-day operations. And this was not an easy task. First thing is like you want data, and you go and ask data with anybody, nobody will give you. People are very much protective about what data they have, and that's the key problem. Even within departments, data sharing is a big challenge. Yep. Think about any river which is crossing the state, for example. There is a huge challenge of data sharing. Nobody is sharing their water data. Think about Brahmaputra, which is coming from China. Government of India is paying millions of dollars for sharing the hydrological data on that. Well, data sharing has been very critical. And this is something which has been inherited in the way the government agencies work, that they have to protect the data. Nothing wrong about it, because that's how the department functioned so far. But with the advent of new data technologies, convincing them for data sharing is a challenge. You have to convince them that how, and you have to, not only convince them, you have to buy in, because they are your stakeholders. If you build a solution and they are not going to use it, then you are doomed. You forget about the next client, your first client is also gone. So that was the biggest challenge, how to bring these all stakeholders into one platform with a cohesive mindset. So first problem was data. You go for data, you mine the data, and then you have a huge resource requirement in terms of data collection only, because the data will be in a format which the system can't ingest. To go for a water level data, that will be registered, handwritten in a register. Your IT system can't digest it. You have to convert it to a digital system, then use the OCR systems. Handwriting recognition is also other problem. Then there are n number of problems which you identify, because data is not uniform. Different departments maintain same data in a different data format, in a different data type. So the metadata are very different. So you have to unify that first. So basically it starts from the very first block, which is data. Right. How to get it right, and how to ensure that in future also you get it right. It's not about one-time activity. You need a near real-time data, and then it's a very difficult work process itself. And that's an evolutionary step, I will say, because once the data is in the system, then you can do anything. But you can't convince people to use a technology unless they wanted to use it. You can, I think, people from our age, we understand how mobile phone, people were saying, hey, it's a bad thing, throw it out. I remember when I had my first mobile phone, my father was strictly against it, that it will spoil you. And he wanted to throw it out at any cost. But somehow I resisted. But same thing happened. Same thing happened in the industry. When we go to government officials, we have to tell them about the technology adoption. It's not about they don't want to adopt it, but there is a significant gap between when they understood the technology and what is the current state of technology. So they have a clear understanding that this is their job role, and that's how the technology will empower them. But adopting it, it comes with its own challenge. It's not a problem of government. Even if you go to a company like Infosys, Wipro, Accenture, even they have the technology adoption rule curve, where they say that once upon a time the performance will go completely down because of the new technology. So similarly, the adoption has been a challenge. So one side we have to meet the department requirement, other side we also have to meet the market requirement. Because if your platform doesn't support the upgrading on the technological side, you will be again of no use in future time. So these were very key things which has helped us grow, as well as to become more and more stronger. But as you say, when you hit hard, you become stronger. Right. So the similar pattern when we're working for these kind of clients, it's very difficult to work with them, because the way we see technology is not exactly the way they see. Exactly. And that's where the difference comes.
So convincing them to switch to this tech-enabled water management was very, very difficult, as I can understand. But what were the other roadblocks?
Okay, the roadblock, I will say, is divided into two parts. One thing is internal, one thing is external. So let's start with the internal roadblocks, because that I can talk more freely. So technical resources are one roadblock, because the way the Indian industry works, these kind of resources are still coming to the market. The academia has just adopted such kind of curriculum, the training institutes and our big IT mentorship firms, I will say, or the incubation centers, they have recently started addressing these kind of needs, say about geospatial intelligence. When we talk about a specific term, it's geo AI, and when we talk about in terms of artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithm, these are relative new domain. So getting a right candidate is difficult. So resourcing is one challenge which we had. Obviously, we have to we have to break our heads to get the right candidate in our company, and then obviously retaining them is a challenge. So these are internal factors. Again, a part of that you have to also understand from the collaboration side, because you need data from various providers. So you have to be compatible with the IoT side, you have to be compatible with the remote sensing satellite side, you have to be compatible with whatever the department have their own network of, like we call it a SCADA system. So you have to be relevant to them. And there are many systems which are legacy. So now you can think about, while we are talking about upgrading ourselves to future, at the same time we can't obsolete these legacy systems. So we have to work with them also. So this thing has, it's a life cycle basically, you say. You have to start from the stage where you are a pupa, then you have to go back to butterfly, and then you have to come back again, and then you have to restart, right? So that's I think every startup has this tendency, or I could say this behavior, that they always have to, re-innovate themselves or reinvent themselves a couple of times before actually converting to a beautiful unicorn. That would be.
I know unicorn is the flavor of the season, and I know that you've already touched a few multi-million dollars. What are the growth prospects? How do you plan to go about?
See, your feeling of being a unicorn or these things has not been unique nowadays, Earlier it was very rare to find, but now you see every year we have a new unicorn wall created, right? Even in Amrut 2.0 today, we have seen around 20 unicorn walls, displayed by our Microsoft peer. So there are plenty of companies who are converting to unicorn, and but we have a different vision towards it. We have a vision of converting unicorn in terms of touching people's life, because our one implementation touched the millions of people in the state. So we wanted to touch across every possible life on the planet with our solution, and that will convert us to unicorn. So if you see, this is the vision which we have, to be a water tech leader and export these water tech solutions outside the country by having the success story within the country. And that's what in the process we are right now. And if you see at the market, this market is huge, multi-billion-dollar market, and there is a huge potential in the market. So obviously becoming a unicorn and becoming a multi-billion-dollar company, just a matter of couple of years. The more we will be in the game, the more we will be gaining it out. But yes, from the perspective of, from the philosophy of our work style, we wanted to be unicorn in terms of people's life we are touching in. Because you see, United Nations has claimed its sustainable development goals every time, everywhere. Even the COP26 agenda was there. Yes. So it's a huge challenge right now. With climate change, you see places where flood was rare, now they are getting every year flood, right? Mm-hmm. You see the Kerala flood, Chennai flood, Delhi flood, even flood in Rajasthan, Bikaner flood. So the floods has become a terrible problem of the nation. At the same time, see about in the summers when the women and kids in our family has to travel a lot for water. Okay, being a man, I might have a liberty in this system that we don't have to do that. But understand about that. That's a huge economic loss to the country, huge employment loss, because people are fetching water. And for what purpose? So just drinking purpose, food purpose. They are not taking bath because they don't have water supply at their home. So we are privileged because we have those kind of ecosystem, and we live in a place or we live in a city where these things are managed. But there are people, there are areas where these things are completely scarce, and people feel privileged to have sufficient drinking water throughout the week. So that will be our parameter of becoming a unicorn, and we firmly believe that once we reach that point, the money will automatically follow.
Fantastic. That's a very, very inspiring vision, and I really do hope that you are able to achieve it very soon. But what is your message to the other budding entrepreneurs?
So, the entrepreneurship journey is of challenges. Like I already illustrated. You start from a cocoon stage, you become larva, pupa, butterfly. And if you see each stage, how transformation happens, the transformation always happens within. Nothing comes from outside. You have to compress yourself in a tiny chamber to become a butterfly, a beautiful butterfly. You have to compress yourself. You have to be there. So it basically translates as you have to think about the way you are, impacting life. You are solving the problems. You have to think about that. Once you are sure that yes, this is the thing which will, have that larger impact, there will always be a potential market for that. I don't know any industry, I don't know any startup which has failed because of the market cap. So market has been there for each and everything. I know a couple of multi-million-dollar company who only sells these buttons. Okay, because everybody wears shirts, right? They're everything. The watch company, the fabric company, this artificial flowers company, wood company, everything we see around us, you can point out many multi-million-dollar company around it. And even the tiniest component of that, item around you, you can figure it out, right? Even the chemicals, even the dyes, everything you will find out. So there is no problem about becoming a successful. Yes, all the challenges as a company we feel is internal. Most of those companies are internal. Either it's about streamlining our vision, either it's understanding the technology, either it's deploying it right, or taking it the next level with the right strategy. So most of the things are internal. There will be a couple of external factors. So for example, the sad incident happening right now in Ukraine. So many people who were about to become, unicorn, they might have faced this, extreme catastrophic event.
Right.
So just to, exclude such kind of extremities, if I talk about a regular, way the life moves, you have opportunity everywhere. It's just about understanding that one right thing, and that you can do only when you compress yourself in a tiny chamber and you realize the journey of becoming a butterfly from that stage.
All right, so of course, it's all about the idea and then hard work and then perseverance and then, of course, success. That's a very inspiring message that you're giving to other budding entrepreneurs. But Amit, you joined us here in the studio in the National Capital. Thank you so much and all the very best for all your future endeavors.
Yes, thank you, KRITI, and thank you, Sansad TV, for having us here. It's a proud moment for us as well to be on this stage and discuss about how we have, how we are on the path of becoming that unicorn. That will be, we are extremely proud of it. Thank you.
Well, viewers, that was another inspiring story of a startup. You can also give in your suggestions and your feedback and also your comments. That's all I had for you in this edition. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Sansad TV. Namaskar.